So the next step in your Dubsado Build journey is figuring out your client journey. And so to start with that, we're going to first think through the different services that you offer. How do you work with people, and list out those services. So for me, I do a VIP day, I do a full Dubsado build, and then I have strategy call sessions, just 90-minute calls. So I have 3 different services that I offer right now, and each one of those has its own client journey. Some of them are similar, but all of them are different. They're each unique. So figure out your services and then think about how you want your packages to be built off of them. Is it an hourly rate? Is it a one-time thing? How do you bill? And what is your payment plan associated with it? Is it a pay in full? Do they pay over the course of the time that they're working with you? What is that based on? Is it based on like the project date, the contract signing, all kinds of things? Just write all of that down. Get it out of your mind and onto paper to figure out what you want it to be. If you are fully overwhelmed in this process, don't you worry. I have a super exciting dashboard for your Dubsado workflow builds. And really, it's like your Dubsado build top to bottom inside of Notion. It's a Notion template, and it will walk you through all of these things. So if you need it, you want it, you do want it, I'm telling you, you do need it. It is amazing. It has helped me and my clients immensely. There's a link to it down below. So now that you have all of your services written out, the next thing we want to think about is the first step of the client journey. And the first step of the client journey is like, what happens when a new lead comes in? And your leads, you want to think about, where are they coming from? Do you get most of your leads through your website? Do you get them through DMs on Instagram? How do you get new people coming to you and saying that they want to work with you? How are you capturing that information? Where are you doing it at? I have one client who does a lot of work on Instagram and actually sends people like DMs and says, hey, if you want more information, let me know. And they just give me your email address back. And they will put that, like she will manually put that email in a form that will kick off a workflow for a lead client journey for just somebody that's interested in the service. Alternatively, if you have somebody that's actually seeking you out and wanting your services, you might have like a next stage to qualify the lead. So if you are a wedding photographer, you might need to check the date to get back to them. So what's the first step when a lead comes in? What happens? Do you send them an email? Do you send them a request to schedule a call with you so you can chat with them? Do you send them your pricing guide? What is the next step after like that lead comes in? How does it come in? And what's the first step of like getting them the information that they need to work with you? So that's the first part of our workflow. So for me, I like to have that be like the very first lead workflow, follow up with them. They were interested. Great. And the next step of your client journey is like, what then has to happen to actually get them onboarded? A lot of times it's sending a proposal, right? It's agreeing to terms, it's allowing them to pick their packages, it's figuring out if they're a good fit. Maybe you have another call in there to really make sure you are giving them exactly what they need and you're exactly who they need to work with. For me, I like to have this be like a second lead workflow where I will send out a proposal. So I have like a workflow that's called lead to send proposal, or just send proposal and then the name of the service that I'm sending the proposal for. And I like it as a workflow, not just as a one-off, like you actually want to do it because you need to follow up with them, right? For both of these stages, as they're a lead, they have not confirmed that they want to book you yet. You want to be in their ear a little bit, reminding them to pull the trigger and book with you. We need them to not forget about you. We need them to be just as excited as they were when they were on your website and they gave you their information. You want to seal the deal. So make sure you follow up with them and you can have reminders, especially for like sending a proposal here in this phase 2 of like lead phase 2. you send the proposal, there is an option inside of Dubsado that is in the workflows. Once we get there, one of the options is after a form is not completed. So let's say you sent the proposal and then 3 days later, they still have not filled it out. Well, you can trigger an automation that goes out 3 days after that proposal sent was not completed, and you can resend it out to them and to bump them, to remind them to fill it out. And you can do that again. You can do that as many times as you want. I would suggest not too many times, because you also want to be gracious and understanding if they are not a good fit for them. But you do want to make sure you follow up. A lot of times it's just timing. People are busy. They haven't forgotten about you, but they just haven't been able to pull the trigger yet. So just courteously remind people, see if they're still interested, and at the end you can always archive them automatically if they haven't signed the proposal in X number of days, and it's fine. Like, and if they want to work with you in the future, they can always start the process all over again. Sometimes in the sending the proposal phase as well, you might have like pre-done packages, right? So my VIP day is a one fee, like it is what it is, and there's no changing that. But my Dubsado builds, depending on the complexity of the organization, have different dollar amounts to them, depending on how much work needs to get done. And I have some add-ons as well. So my proposals there are a little bit more intense. So I like to edit my proposal before I send it out to my client. I don't want anything automatically sending. I'm going to edit it. Some people at this point want to make sure that their contract is edited. Sometimes like they customize. There are smart fields you can use inside your contract, but sometimes people just want to be like super particular about some of the deadlines and things for their clients to know. It's all good, but this is a stage to put it all together and make sure you're reviewing everything to make sure you're booking that lead into a client. And then you have to consider like when stage 3, like what turns them into from a lead to a job, a secured client, right? Do they sign a contract? Do they pay an invoice? Do they pay a part of an invoice? Do they fill out a questionnaire that is like deep enough that you're like, yep, we're booked, we're moving forward, I trust you. I really encourage you to get paid, but I know sometimes people work with organizations that they are still cutting checks and mailing them out to you. So getting paid might not be the trigger to move your project forward, to get them into a job, into the next stage. So what is it that is the final piece that turns them into a lead, into a job, and like you can like push them over into the next funnel? Think about that. And then once they're booked, what happens? Do you send them an email? Do you send them an onboarding form, a questionnaire, a welcome guide? Maybe it's a one-on-one appointment or a virtual call. Like, what happens now that they are your client, so that you welcome them, you greet them, and you provide the next steps of working with you? People love clarity. We all love clarity, right? Like Brene Brown says, clear is kind. So to lay out exactly, like once they book with you, to thank them and either send them an email that thanks them and says, hey, we'll be getting you your next step information here shortly, and just like telling them that, but like, hey, like you're in, I got everything from you, you're good to go, grateful to have you here. If you need to like edit those questionnaires some, or maybe you have to like, I don't know, work on something. Maybe you just need time before you can send them something, or you need to customize it. Highly recommend sending just an automated email once whatever it is that happens that makes them from a client to a job, whatever that thing is, automate an email off of it to send them something nice. It just an email, maybe with some gifts in it. I don't know, if it's something fun to make sure that you're being thought of, because you are an investment for them. So just confirm it with them. And then once they become a client and you get like your first steps going, what else needs to happen? Are there more forms that need to go out? Maybe you're a coach and you have like helpful workflow forms, or no, that's me. I'm the Dubsado coach with the workflow forms. But maybe you have like some journal prompts that you share with all of your clients, and you just want to make sure they're shared and out there. You can just apply them to the client portal as soon as they become a job. So think through what it is as they work with you, from like initial thank you for working with me, and then until the service is ended, what happens in that time frame. If you're a wedding photographer, you probably are in like a day of timeline or checking in a month before the wedding, or having a engagement photo session if that's included with your package with them. So really think through what exactly is included and write out that whole process. And remember, this is not just your client journey as it stands today, but what is your dream client journey? Like if you could automatically send an email reminder 2 days before the project start date, at whatever it is. If you have a website build that's starting, what is that email that goes out with a final checklist that says, hey, we need to make sure that your Squarespace site is paid for and up and running, and give us admin access. Or if you are a brand agency, like, hey, we're checking in on your discovery, making sure you had any questions. Or if you're a copywriter, maybe it's making sure like nothing's changed for what your services are before we start working together. Because sometimes you get booked with a client and your work doesn't start for a few weeks, a month, or more. So checking in with them before that starts is always ideal, just to make sure nothing changes. So what would ideally your client journey be when they work with you? That you're checking in on them, you're giving them what they need, you're getting the information you need to do the work that you need to do, and it's all just like good communication. It's all gravy. Your clients love working with you because you are on top of things. What does that look like? And then how does your client work conclude? Like, what's at the very end of it? Do you have final deliverables that you send to them? Maybe you have final files that you send to them, or your website needs to be pushed out live and all the DNS settings need to go out. You need to transfer their password back to them. Or you have to go in and start editing all of the photos that you just took. Like, you have to send those out. So like, what wraps the project? I have offboarding calls with my clients, and then if you hire me for a full Dubsado build, you actually get 30 days of support with me. So like, technically you're still a client in that time frame, where I'm happy to jump on and edit anything or make changes or help teach and whatever else. But then at the end of that, what happens? Sometimes I know, like, at the end of working together for a project, you're actually like on retainer in the future. So let's say you just did a one-time website build, but now you are on retainer with that client for website maintenance. When do you start billing them for that web maintenance? If it's a monthly bill, a quarterly bill, whatever, like, what's happening after the project ends, and then what is it going to next? And then the final part of our client journey went from lead to job and working with you to we've fully completed. What does that follow-up look like? I highly, highly suggest sending a form that asks for feedback, for you to have testimonial language directly from your clients, for you to actually get feedback on your work, make sure you're doing a good job, or if there's ways for you to improve your process, improve what you're doing. You want to know that so you can only get better with your next client. And you might even, maybe instead of like direct feedback, like, you really want a review. You want someone to review you on Google or on the Nut or wherever. Like, it really helps you to get reviews. For me, it's on the Dubsado Certified Specialist website, to get reviews, to tell other people that are searching for your services how great you are and how wonderful you were to work with. So that email, that follow-up that goes out, you want that to automatically go out, to ask for feedback or a review or whatever it is. And then maybe you want to check in again, maybe a month later, see how they're doing, maybe 3 months later, and offer a new service that you have, or something that might make it could just be a check-in to see how they're doing with the work that you did for them. Make sure everything's going good, everything's great. If it's after a wedding, like, hey, did you get the framed art that we ordered for you up on the walls? I'd love to see a photo of it. Just some genuine connection after the project wraps. Maybe you ask for friends if they have anybody that they could send your way, if you're looking for referrals. So that is a great place to do it after you finish working. How much longer? Or maybe if there's like a stage 2 of working with you, maybe you do branding and website. Maybe after the branding concludes, a few months later, check in and be like, hey, just thinking about you, wondering if you wanted a new website. We'd love to get the ball rolling with you now that you've been using your beautiful branding for some time. Whatever it is, this is the follow-up. And this can be as far out or as narrow as you want it to be. And I highly suggest sticking them as soon as like whatever concludes your work together to change the project status into like a completed work follow-up type of a project status so that they're not like on top of your mind as a current working client. And you know that they're just like in follow-up. The workflows are automatically sending out the emails that they need to send out, and it's gravy. And then after all of those workflows have been sent out, you can archive the project, finally, right? We don't archive it as soon as we send out our photos. No. We archive it when we've completed communication with that client for that project. It's a lot of steps to think through. I have a freebie client journey worksheet down below if you would rather like write these thoughts out and get prompts on how to do it. And also, again, my Dubsado workflow dashboard that actually like helps you take like what your ideas are and like start to build it out in a workflow and then help you figure out what schedulers need to get made, what project statuses need to get made, what canned emails need to get written, what forms need to get made, what like all these things that come together with your Dubsado. There's so many moving parts and so many small things. This dashboard is really going to help you see what all you need to put together to have your Dubsado fully complete and working for you. There's even progress bars. So for some of us who like to see how close to their goal they're getting, the progress bars show completion. It's amazing. And yeah, so I hope you get that and you find it super helpful. If you are still super overwhelmed, maybe you have a client journey, you're just not so sure about it, or you just have no idea how to take that client journey and put it into actual steps inside of your Dubsado. I get you. It is super overwhelming and it is my jam. Like, I love hearing your vision, taking your vision and putting an actual system around it that serves you exactly how you want it to serve you. Like, your system is your own. Your way of working with your clients is your own. Even if you've been like coached it or learned it from somebody else, you're putting your unique spin on it. Your emails are your own. Your forms are your own. The work that you do is your own. So if you are just in over your head with what it looks like to take how you work with your clients and stick it in your Dubsado, and you know, like, you hear what I'm saying when I say automatically change the project status and send this reminder 3 days after the appointment is finished, and you are just like, what does that even mean? If I am speaking Greek to you right now, schedule a clarity call with me, because I would love to come into your Dubsado and fix it up and create magic in there so you don't even have to worry about all of this, y'all. Like, all this client journey, all these little things that Dubsado does, you do not know what you don't know. And I know it, right? Like, I'm a pro, I'm an expert inside of Dubsado. Not inside of everything, but Dubsado I got Dubsado, and I would love to partner with you if you need help with it. Otherwise, if you're like, good, like, Lauren, shush, like, we got it, what's the next step? Next week, we are in week 3 of our Dubsado setup, and we're going to take our client journey, everything that we talked about, and start to figure out the different pieces that we need to actually build out and automate our Dubsado. So I will see you then next week.
All the flowers in my garden never looked as bright as this, like a happy child.